Have you ever stopped to think if, say, a dollar in your hand feels different from a dollar you've got tucked away in savings? Or, if money you really worked hard for has a different kind of weight than, like, an unexpected bonus?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people do that, right? Without even thinking.
Exactly. We sort of treat money differently based on where it came from or what we plan to do with it. But what if this little human quirk isn't just about personal budgeting? What if it's how even criminals, specifically online fraudsters, think about the digital dollars they steal?
That's the fascinating question, isn't it?
Welcome, everyone, to a deep dive that might just change how you think about money, especially, digital money. Our mission today is to unpack something pretty startling. Online fraudsters don't just see money as, well, money. They give it different personalities, different meanings. We're going to explore what these surprising definitions tell us about the psychology behind online fraud, and really crucially, what this all means for you trying to stay safe online.
Yeah, and what's really amazing here is how this new research, it challenges our basic ideas about money. It pushes us way beyond just the face value, to understand the subjective meaning it has for people operating, well, illicitly online.
So where does this all come from?
This whole deep dive is based on a really insightful study. It's by Wang, Dickinson, and Ghazi-Tehrani from 2025. And they did something pretty remarkable. They analyzed over 4,000 posts.
4,000, wow.
Yeah, from online fraud message boards, specifically on a dark web forum called Dread.
Dread. Okay.
So it's this rare kind of unfiltered look behind the curtain. It gives us an unprecedented view into how these cybercriminals actually think and talk amongst themselves.
It really forces you to rethink everything, doesn't it? I mean, for ages, we've mostly seen money as this, like, universal measuring stick.
Right, the standard view.
Fungible, interchangeable.
Yeah.
Money lets us compare apples to oranges, or like apples to insurance risk, or a year of college.
Exactly. It bridges everything.
And those early social thinkers, like George Simmel, Max Weber, they pointed out how this very fungibility, this ability to swap money for anything, kind of loosened social ties.
Made things more impersonal.
Yeah. Money became this abstract thing, detached from, the relationships or the effort behind it. It was just a number. Cold, hard, objective.
Precisely. That was the conventional wisdom for a long, long time. A dollar is a dollar is a dollar. End of story. But that view, that sort of clinical perspective, it's been really effectively challenged, especially by economic sociology. One of the key figures here is Viviana Zelizer.
Zillier, right. I remember her work.
Yeah, back in 2011, she argued really persuasively that people just don't treat money as if it's all the same. We instinctively give it different meanings, often really surprising ones.
And this is where it gets super relatable, right?
Yeah.
For all of us just using money day to day. Zelier talked about earmarking.
Exactly, earmarking.
It's something we all do, maybe without even noticing. We mentally, or sometimes, physically with different accounts or whatever, we set aside money for specific things.
Bills money, fun money.
Right. Bills over here, recreation money there, maybe a gift fund, that holiday you're saving for.
Yeah.
Objectively, it's all the same cash, isn't it?
Technically, yes.
But subjectively, you'd feel weird dipping into the holiday fund for a car repair, wouldn't you?
Definitely. Or spending gift money on, like, groceries. Feels wrong somehow.
Yeah. That mental tag, that earmark, it actually has a lot of power over our decisions, often more than pure economic logic.
It's true. And it goes beyond just budgeting. These meanings we assign, they're deeply shaped by our social roles, our identity even.
How so?
Well, think about parents saving for college. They earmark that money specifically, right? But it's not just about the saving. It reinforces their identity as good parents.
Yeah, I see. Fulfilling a role.
Exactly. Planning for the future, being responsible, defining the money that way helps them live up to those expectations.
Yeah.
And it's all learned, through socialization, influenced by history, by culture.
Like that study comparing U.S. and French attitudes.
Right. Lamont's work in '92. Upper middle class men in the U.S., where you paid more directly for things like healthcare, saw money as a stronger signal of status compared to France, with its bigger welfare state. The meaning shifted based on the societal structure.
So it's not just what it's for or who you are, but also how you got the money in the first place. That shapes its meaning too, right?
Absolutely. That's a point Caitlin Delaney made back in 2012.
Okay.
Think about, say, a salesperson working on commission. For them, the money isn't just a paycheck number.
It represents their hustle, yeah.
Exactly. Their effort, the trust they built, their skill. It's a direct measure of performance. So that connection to how it was earned makes it feel fundamentally different from, say, money you just inherited or got from an investment.
Okay, that makes sense. So this idea that money isn't monolithic, that it has these different flavors based on context and how it's acquired, does that apply in the criminal world too?
Fascinatingly, yes. Criminologists have found very similar things. There was a study, Birgit Bucerius in 2014, looking at young Muslim drug dealers in Germany.
Okay.
She found they called their drug money haram para.
Which means?
Basically dirty money or forbidden money in their cultural context. And this wasn't just a label. It genuinely affected how they spent it.
Really?
They explicitly said they wouldn't use that dirty money for honorable things like supporting their family. It shows this deep moral distinction even within their illegal earnings.
Wow, that's powerful. Even illicit money carries a moral weight for them.
It seems so. And then there's that other study, Dickinson and colleagues in 2023, on armed robbers.
What did they find?
They found robbers saw their stolen money in multiple ways. Before the robbery, it was about survival, the basic, desperate need.
Motivation.
Right. But after a successful score, the cash changed. It became easy and guilt-free money, which weirdly seemed to make them feel less risk for the next robbery.
Huh, like it lowered their guard.
Kind of. And it also became fast money, something to be spent recklessly, almost compulsively.
Use it or lose it, maybe.
Perhaps. But here's the kicker. Credit cards. They saw those as completely different. Too slow, too traceable, way too risky.
So not like cash at all for them.
Not at all. Fundamentally different, even though it's potential value.
Okay, so all this background leads us to online fraud, which is, I mean, massive, right? Billions lost every year.
Absolutely huge. The FBI, the FTC, the numbers are staggering. Billions upon billions.
And despite that, you're saying most studies just assume fraudsters see the money as just money, a medium of exchange, nothing more.
Largely, yes. That's been the default assumption, that financial gain is treated uniformly without digging into any deeper qualitative meaning.
And that's the gap this new study fills.
Exactly.
Given everything we just talked about, earmarking, dirty money, fast money, does that assumption hold up for online fraudsters? People dealing almost purely in digital currency, which is inherently less tangible.
That's the core question.
Do they give different meanings to the digital dollars they steal? This is where it gets really interesting.
This is where we start peeling back the layers.
So how on earth do you study this? I mean, these people operate in the shadows, right?
Well, yeah. To understand how they see digital money, the researchers had to go where the conversations were happening, which meant the dark web.
Right. Into the belly of the beast, so to speak.
Pretty much. The internet obviously allowed fraud to scale globally, but it also created these platforms for fraudsters to connect, collaborate.
Share tips and tricks, sell tools.
Exactly. These forums are like central hubs, discussing methods, selling illegal services, exchanging knowledge. It really helps them organize large-scale crime, breaking it down into parts.
A criminal ecosystem.
A thriving one. And interestingly, while the dark web has forums for all sorts of illegal stuff, fraud forums consistently attract the most users. Along with things like carding and hacking, it's a major hub of activity.
And the specific forum here was Dread.
Yes, Dread. If you know anything about the dark web, Dread is a big name. It's known for focusing on privacy, security, anonymity, using strong encryption, decentralized hosting.
Which makes people feel safe talking openly.
Precisely. Which, for researchers, makes it a goldmine for qualitative data. You get these candid, unvarnished insights into how they think, the challenges they face, their mindset, because they feel relatively secure.
Okay, so they got the data from Dread. How did they actually collect it and, ethically?
Good question. They accessed a pre-existing data set managed by the Cambridge Cybersecurity Center, the CCC, through a restricted tool called PostCog, designed for researchers. They pulled over 4,200 relevant posts from specific fraud-related boards on Dread.
All in English.
All in English, yes. Spanning from January 2019 to January 2024. So a solid 5-year snapshot of recent activity.
And the ethics. Dealing with criminal conversations.
Paramount. The researchers were extremely careful. The study was actually exempt from formal review because they used de-identified secondary data.
Meaning the CCC had already removed names, emails, IPs.
Exactly. All personally identifying info was stripped out beforehand, and the research team added their own layers, storing data encrypted, not sharing it outside the team, using random pseudonyms for everyone quoted.
So focusing on the content, not the individuals.
Absolutely. Ensuring privacy and safety, even while studying illicit activity.
Okay, so data secured ethically. Then what? How do you make sense of 4,000 posts?
Through thematic analysis. It's a qualitative method. You systematically read through the text looking for recurring patterns, ideas, themes.
Not just counting keywords, but understanding meaning.
Right. The first author dove in, read over 2,000 posts, started grouping them. Like, okay, these posts are about needing money to start fraud. These are about how hard it is to actually get or use the money.
Sorting things into buckets?
Kind of.
Yeah.
And constantly comparing new posts to the categories, refining them, maybe tossing some out, until no new broad ideas were really popping up. Then a second author checked a sample independently, and their findings matched up.
Validating the initial themes.
Exactly. Then they dug even deeper with another 2,200 posts. No new broad categories emerged, which suggested they'd reached saturation, likely captured the main ways money was being discussed.
Okay.
And the final stage. Both authors worked together, breaking down those broad buckets into narrower, more specific subcategories. For instance, that general idea of money being hard got split into two distinct things.
Which were?
Difficult money, needing skill to get it, and tangible money, money that was hard to convert into actual spendable cash.
Okay. Two different kinds of difficulty.
Precisely. This careful, step-by-step process let them uncover these hidden, varied meanings fraudsters give to money. It was like putting together a psychological puzzle from thousands of digital pieces.
Okay, so after all that digging, what did they find? What are these personalities of fraud money?
They identified 5 really distinct ways these online fraudsters think about and talk about money. It paints a much richer picture than just stolen cash.
5 categories. Okay, let's unpack them. What's the first one?
The first, and maybe the most common lure, especially for newcomers, is easy, fast money.
The classic hook.
Exactly. Money that seems to require minimal time, effort, or skill. You see terms like quick cash, that was from a user called Tree1x2 or another, N1 Night Tie and OWL, saying bank fraud was most certainly easy money.
It's the promise that draws people in.
It really is, and they often explicitly contrast it with earning money legally.
Right, like, why work minimum wage when I can do this?
Pretty much. Bladio202 literally said, you can make way more money with fraud than earning quick cash on street. Another user, WYV3RN, complained legal work gets you maybe $20 for hours of work, while illegally you could make hundreds or even thousands of dollars per day.
So it's that huge perceived difference in effort versus reward.
Yes, and you see it in the pleas from newbies. Angry girl posting, I need someone to show me an easy way to earn some money, I am broke AF. Or prima donna needing cash fast, asking for a guide to reliably and quickly cash out.
And for you listening, this is crucial, right? Because this easy money fantasy isn't just what traps new fraudsters.
It's often the same bait used in scams targeting innocent victims, that promise of quick, effortless money.
Like lottery winnings versus a salary. One feels effortless, the other earned.
Exactly that analogy.
Okay, so easy money is the hook, but it's not the whole story.
Not at all. Here's where it gets complex. For many others, especially the veterans, fraud money is seen as the complete opposite. Difficult money.
Difficult?
Yeah.
How so?
Not about the amount, but about what it represents. Years of practice, learned skills, time invested, sheer dedication. And they get really annoyed with the noobs who think it's easy.
They push back.
Oh, yeah. Bluntly. Nura0515 telling someone to change this attitude. Ham stating flat out, fast and easy money, there is no such thing. Instant money is not possible. Question 13 saying doing any sort of fraud takes work, and balls, it's not a cakewalk.
So it's earned through illicit skill.
Right. Even experienced ones like Bad Shrub admitted, thought this shit would be easy and soon realized it wasn't as expected. This difficult money is a product of hard-won expertise.
What kind of expertise are we talking about?
They stress learning specific methods, carding, check fraud, CPN fraud, which is creating fake credit profiles.
Right, synthetic IDs.
Yeah, or using full LSAWs, those complete stolen identity packages. But it's not just the fraud technique. It's also mastering operational security, OPSEC.
Keeping anonymous, avoiding detection.
Absolutely critical. Prima Donna advised figuring out the right OPSEC first. And it's not just about cops. It's about avoiding other fraudsters.
Getting ripped off by their own kind.
Happens all the time. Sonic H3X warned about ripper scammers. Blue Duck said, don't rely on reviews. That shit can be made up. So this money represents real-time dedication, knowledge, risk. It's their craft, albeit an illegal one.
And for you, the listener, this really underscores the sophistication, doesn't it? These are just random opportunists. Many are skill dedicated.
Which makes them much harder to stop.
Okay, so we have easy money and difficult money. What's next?
Next is tangible money. This adds another layer. Even if you've acquired the difficult money digitally, turning it into actual, spendable, untraceable cash is a whole separate challenge.
The cash out problem.
Exactly. Grace Jeans defined it perfectly. Actual cash in hand without any trace to yourself. It's basically the money laundering step within their process, making the digital real and clean.
And this was a common struggle.
Huge struggle. Lots of posts about it. Mullet 8 had loads of stolen card data, CVVs, bank info, even physical cards, but had little success converting what I have into tangible currency.
Stuck with digital monopoly money, almost.
In a way, yeah. Voodoo's Nail had constant problems with getting bank accounts shut down when trying to cash out. The language they use, always cash and cashing out, shows they see it as a transformation. The money changes when it becomes usable, untraceable.
It becomes real to them then.
In a crucial sense, yes. And for you listening, this highlights that key vulnerability we mentioned, the cash out point. That's where they're often weakest.
Okay, that makes sense. Difficult money needs to become tangible money. What else?
Then there's initial money. This is specifically the money needed upfront to even start doing certain frauds.
Startup capital for crime.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a prerequisite. Panther Pants 05 mentioned, finding good methods may cost you money, as mentors are not free. Hims 33 said the same about loan fraud. It will cost dollars for a mentor.
So you need money to make stolen money. What kind of costs are we talking?
Or Butcher Boy actually broke it down. Maybe $15, $30 a month for registrations, $100 for a burner laptop, VPNs, buying full Ls at $4.11 each, estimated around $200 to get started.
Not huge, but not nothing either. A barrier.
Definitely. And crucially, where does this initial money come from? Almost never from the skilled online fraud itself.
So how do they get it?
More basic stuff, minimum wage jobs, maybe? C-Flinch suggested things like financial domination whoring scams or even selling drugs offline.
Wow.
Angfiend even detailed this elaborate Uber Eats driver scam, creating fake accounts, picking up food, claiming an issue, getting a small payment, rinse and repeat.
Grinding out the seed money.
Exactly. This initial money is seen as totally separate, a means to an end, an investment to enable the real fraud later. It's the opposite of scared money, which, as B3A3 Moth said, don't make no money, you have to risk it.
And for you listening, this could be an early warning sign.
Yeah.
Someone needing cash for weird investments, buying burner gear.
Could be, yeah. Unusual spending patterns for seemingly small stakes.
Okay, that's 4. Easy, difficult, tangible, initial. What's the 5th?
The 5th is risky money. This is money that, no matter how you get it, carries a much higher chance of getting you caught.
Okay, like what?
A prime example they discussed a lot is money muling.
Using someone else's account to move dirty money.
Right, often an unwitting person. And the fraudsters know it's incredibly risky for the mule. Brisky 3 said mules get a big cut, 30–40%, specifically because you will eventually go to prison.
Wow. They see it as basically inevitable for the mule.
Pretty much. Danger pay.
What else counts as risky money?
The big one, almost universally agreed upon, was physical credit cards.
Really? Even though it's like currency?
Yeah, but in the online fraud world, physical is dangerous. GIMSOC 5 warned it's going to get reported as missing and you're going to use it and potentially get caught. PathoGYN agreed. You may get fucked because it's physical.
Yeah.
Someone going to report that shit, lol.
Because it leaves a physical trail, unlike purely digital stuff.
Exactly. The risk of detection is immediate and high, so they actively told each other to avoid physical cards, saw them as liabilities.
Some of the advice was pretty blunt, I heard.
Oh, incredibly blunt. Reflects the high stakes. One user asked what to do with a stolen physical card, gave this astonishingly crude response, basically telling them where to shove it.
Okay.
It just highlights how fundamentally different they viewed physical cards compared to digital transfers or cash. In their sense, usable, untraceable digital funds. They avoided them like the plague.
Similar to how those armed robbers avoided traceable things.
Very similar dynamic. The perceived risk profile is just too high. And for you listening, again, this reinforces a security point. Physical cards, or someone pushing for physical card use in odd ways. Big red flag.
Okay, wow. So these 5 phases of fraud money. Easy, difficult, tangible, initial, risky. It really blows up that idea of money just being money, doesn't
That
it?
shows how deeply meaning is embedded even in these illicit digital transactions.
It reminds me of Zelizer again. Didn't she predict something like this with electronic money?
She absolutely did. She argued that even though electronic money seems impersonal, It would actually facilitate a wild multiplication of differentiation.
A wild multiplication.
And this study really bears that out. Maybe not exactly how she pictured it. She thought more about who issued the money or programmatic limits, but the core idea holds. And building on Delaney's work, it shows the process of getting the money, even illegally, is hugely influential in shaping its meaning. The journey defines the dollar.
And it's social too, right? These meanings aren't invented in a vacuum.
Not at all. Zelizer stressed the social aspect, how money shapes relationships and status. And you see that so clearly here with easy versus difficult money.
Also.
Fraudsters learn these distinctions not just from doing crime, but from reading the forums, seeing what experienced members say. It's collective learning in the criminal world.
And defining money as difficult gives the experienced guys status.
Exactly. It lets them position themselves as experts, superior to the noobs chasing easy money. It's not just about efficiency. It's symbolic boundary making. It boosts their ego, their identity within the group. It's a psychic reward beyond just the cash.
So defining money this way is also about social standing in the cybercrime world.
It's deeply intertwined. It speaks to those basic human needs for status, recognition, even in these hidden online spaces.
That's quite a thought. The perceived costs aren't just prison, but also the effort, the difficulty.
Right. And this study really adds to how we think about risk and reward in cybercrime. Anonymity online might lower the perceived risk of getting caught physically, but the challenges of online fraud needing difficult money skills, the cashing out hassle, simultaneously increase the perceived costs or effort involved.
It's a paradox. Safer from cops, maybe, but harder to actually succeed and profit.
In some ways, yes, the online world creates its own unique obstacles.
And this changes the reward side, too. It's not just about the amount stolen.
Definitely not. Traditional models see money as a uniform reward. This shows rewards are multifarious.
Multifarious, meaning?
Many forms. Different types of money with different values and risks. Plus, there's non-monetary psychic rewards, like feeling competent, beating the system, being seen as an expert. The satisfaction from getting difficult money might be a huge motivator in itself.
Which leads to another paradox you mentioned, delayed gratification.
Yes. Unlike, say, street robbers spending fast money immediately, online fraudsters often have to wait. They can't spend digital gains instantly. They have to cash out.
Which is hard and takes time.
Right. And this delay seems to foster different behavior. The study suggests they sometimes reinvest that stolen digital money as initial money.
Like a criminal entrepreneur.
Almost, yeah. Investing in learning new methods, buying better tools, building their illicit business.
So does that delayed gratification make them stick with it longer? Does treating the money with more foresight change their criminal path compared to impulsive spenders?
That's a massive, important question this research raises. We don't fully know yet. How does this investment mindset affect the cycle of offending? It's a critical area for future work, understanding how to break that cycle.
Okay, so if we understand these different money types, especially the bottlenecks like tangible money, how does that help us fight back?
It offers really specific intervention points. The study hammers home that cashing out is a major vulnerability.
Where they struggle.
Yes. Getting legitimate bank accounts to use as drops, passing ID checks, getting working phone lines for verification, these are constant headaches for them.
So hit them where it hurts.
Exactly. Financial institutions, telecom companies, law enforcement, they all have a role. The study recommends things like much stricter ID verification, especially where cash outs happen.
Physical stores, online services.
Right. Enhanced monitoring of transactions, better surveillance in places like money transfer offices, and crucially, training law enforcement on the detailed steps of cashing out so they can target those specific points.
And if you make cashing out harder,
you directly reduce their ability to profit. Word gets around on the forums that it's harder, riskier. The perceived difficulty of getting tangible money goes way up.
Which could deter people.
Potentially, yes. If the reward is harder to get and the risks and effort are high, it might stop some newbies and frustrate existing fraudsters. It's about making the whole enterprise less appealing, less profitable. And for you listening, those extra ID checks, they might feel annoying, but they're part of this bigger strategy to make it harder for criminals.
So it's not just blocking transactions, it's changing the psychology.
That's the deeper goal, understanding the why behind their actions, the social meanings, the entrepreneurial mindset some have, that lets you design smarter policies. Maybe interventions could even try to shift the norms within those communities, make fraud seem less cool or less skilled.
Altering the psychic rewards.
Potentially. It's about tackling it from multiple angles, not just the technical or financial.
Now, you mentioned this study used data from DREAD, English-speaking forums. Are there limitations there?
For sure. Like any study, it has limits. Findings might not apply perfectly to fraudsters using other languages or platforms. That's a caveat.
And forum posts. People might brag or lie.
Always a possibility. You have to take some claims with a grain of salt, though the consistency across thousands of posts adds weight.
And it focused mainly on regular money, not crypto.
Correct. Primarily state-backed currency, which leaves a huge area open for future research.
Cryptocurrency fraud.
Exactly. How does that whole crypto culture, the hype, the risk, the prestige, change how fraudsters define that kind of money? And how does blockchain itself, its transparency or irreversibility, affect their thinking and actions?
That's a whole other can of worms.
A really important one, as digital finance keeps evolving. Understanding the psychology of crypto fraud is definitely the next frontier here.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive really drives home that money, especially online, illicit money, is far from simple. It's got these distinct identities: easy, difficult, tangible, initial, risky. And these definitions shape everything for the fraudsters, their motivations, their strategies, how they see themselves and each other.
And understanding that complexity isn't just, an academic exercise. It gives real, practical insights for fighting back more effectively. For policymakers, banks, law enforcement, it helps us see the human behavior behind the code, behind the screen names.
It finds the weak spots.
Exactly. It gives us new, targeted ways to disrupt the cycle.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about how you define money in your own life. Your salary versus a bonus. Money saved for something special versus everyday spending. Does seeing money through these kinds of psychological lenses like these fraudsters do maybe change how you view your own financial world or even how you think about protecting yourself online?
It's a powerful question. Moving beyond just the numbers and thinking about the meaning. It adds a whole new dimension, doesn't it? To finance, to security, even to understanding human behavior